The chair recognizes Mr. Bowles of Attleboro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members of the House. I would like to rise in support of the performance management standards that are in this bill. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that if the performance management standards are executed properly, that we could save billions of dollars for the Commonwealth over the next 20 years. Before I begin, I would like to first thank the Governor for including these performance management standards in this bill. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, in working with the Senate President in coming up with the reforms before revenue. I think that this is going to have a tremendous acceptance by our constituents. And lastly and not least, I'd like to thank the dedication and hard work of the chairman from Chicopee as we went from public hearing to public hearing across the state, took in all the inputs, and the chairman used his experience and knowledge in transportation to meld the best of what we heard along with what the Senate did. And I think this bill is going to go a long way to reform the system. My amendment, Mr. Speaker, provides some additional details on these performance measurement standards. It does a couple of things. It takes the projects that are being executed in the design and in the construction phase and requires the contractor to break these down to manageable size tasks and sub-projects, and each month to identify where are we on the schedule versus what the plan requires. Where are we on the cost expended versus the cost that was projected on the completed tasks? And if those deviations exceed 7%, then the project team would need to identify why we've exceeded expectations and come up with a get-well plan so that we can get the project back on track. Projects don't get into trouble at the end of their phase, they get into trouble at the beginning of their phase. Prior to joining the legislature, I worked as a quality manager for one of the largest defense contractors in the state of Massachusetts. And that was exactly what my responsibilities were. We measured large weapon systems performance against expectations. We measured to see if the cost was in line with the budget, and we measured to see if the project was on schedule. And that's how we were able to accomplish this. As I said, the best way to keep a project on track is to look at the performance on the early tasks. One project that each and every member of this House can relate to, where we didn't do a good job of that, was the Central Artery Project, commonly known the Big Dig. We've had delay after delay and cost overrun after cost overrun, and we're dealing with that in this bill. More locally, in my community of Attleboro, we have a bridge on County Street, which is a main thoroughfare. It was closed in the spring of 2004. My mistake, 2005. It was supposed to take a year and a half. We are today in the spring of 2009, 4 years later. We're 42% complete, and we have yet a new expectation. Who knows whether we're on track or not? We're going to keep pushing it. Mr. Speaker, this project in Attleboro is our example, our poster child for why we need reforms. This amendment will help build confidence with the citizens of Massachusetts. If we can start bringing our projects in on time and on budget, then we're going to start to garner the confidence of our constituents. And just maybe then there'd be a greater acceptance to make investments in further infrastructure for this great Commonwealth. As I thought about this amendment, I said, who could be against this? I've theorized that someone might think it was a level of bureaucracy. Someone might think it was an increased costs. Let me suggest to my colleagues, if you're working on a project and you don't know where you are with respect to budget, and you don't know where you are with respect to schedule, then you have got a blueprint for disaster, and sooner or later, some representative is going to get a call about 2 months before it's supposed to be done and say, guess what, we're about 6 months or a year late. If, on the other hand, you do know where you are on cost and schedule, it's a relatively easy matter to report that to your management and make it, and we'll have a great confidence that we're going to be successful. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that this amendment passes, and I ask that it be decided on a roll of the yeas and nays. Thank you.
Mr. Bowles of Attleboro withdraws his request for a roll call vote. Question comes on adoption of the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.